Well, hello, faith families. That is a term I've used for both Mountsburg and Westover for as far back as I can remember. But it's also a very, very intentional and important word that I want to use this Sunday, because we are looking at, we've been talking about strengths and weaknesses and how to maybe understand our so-called strengths, and maybe more importantly, our so-called weaknesses in light of the gospel and the surprising ways in which the gospel shows what we may consider a weakness to actually be the exact thing that we need. And conversely, those things that we think are strengths could be those things that we might actually do better without. I thought a great place to start with that was to look at the family, because, we do say family is everything. And of course, to a certain extent, that is very, very true. But we also need to unpack that. What do we mean by family? Because we also know that family can be a painful place. It can be a scary place. And we have to, and I'd like our faith families to places that acknowledge that interactions with those that are supposed to love us can sometimes lead us into some very dark places. So I want us to acknowledge that, perhaps learn something from that, but for me, most importantly, to acknowledge that, because family is so important. And so for the next few weeks, we're going to look into family from this lens of strength or weakness. I want to think about my own Auntie Lynn, and just thank you and ask you to continue to pray for her as she continues on this scary struggle and fight against cancer. We think of dear Audrey as she is mourning the loss of her own sister and the pain that causes, which is all not something to be avoided, but it's something to be acknowledged and prayed about. And of course, we got to think of the families of those 215 children's bodies that were discovered. Now, there's been a lot of commentary on this online, and I'm really reticent to bring this up, but I felt like it was somewhat important that I do. But really, right now, this is not my shared experience, but it is the shared experiences of so many of our brothers and sisters here in the nation of Canada that are of Indigenous descent. And right now, for me, it's just so important that we sit back and we listen. And we allow these people's grief to be their own right now, to not interfere, not to place anything on. I've sat in the homes of many of you during a season of grief, and I would never dream of even telling that, because it's not my story to tell. And the same goes here. This is not our stories to tell. These are our stories. These are stories that we are called to listen to take seriously, and then, and only then, start taking up some action to make sure stuff like this never happens again. So welcome. I pray that this service is a blessing to you. I hope that the music inspires you. We remain in the season of Pentecost, a season where we acknowledge the fact that we contain within us a Holy Spirit of God that does indeed, thanks be to Jesus, unite us as family, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of gender, regardless of so many other things that we as humans use to separate us. Christ reminds us that we are indeed family. This is also our communion service, so immediately following the reflection, we'll go into the communion service, so do that, prepare for that now. But I pray that the prayers and that the music helps you enter into a space of contemplation as our faith families continue to worship together in this very, very strange 2021. All right, faith families, please try to ignore the giant and angry mosquito bite I got on my forehead, and let's dig in.